Subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon to never miss an update. Join the only official Telegram channel of Rao's IAS Study Circle to get relevant material and important updates.
Hello everyone and welcome to Daily News Simplified, your one-stop solution to detailed analysis of current affairs which are published in the daily edition of the Hindu newspaper and are equally relevant for your UPSC preparation. Articles which have been put up for today's discussion are listed on your screen, and the timestamping for these articles is already given in the description box. So let us begin with the first article for the day. This article of the Hindu newspaper appeared on page 1st and state that the recent auction on telecom spectrum or 5G spectrum has billed a worth 1.45 lakh crore rupees against what was actually conceived by the government. Now the context says that government on Tuesday, that is yesterday, has received a record bid of 1.45 lakh crore rupees on the first day of the target ever auction for the telecom airways. Now government was actually thinking and expecting to receive around 90,000 crore rupees for the same, but it has surpassed by almost 55,000 crore rupees, which is a good sign. Now, from the syllabus mapping, 5G technologies are important. So here we are going to discuss more on the 5G technology rather than what this auction is all about. But as far as auction is concerned, it is more a commercial activity which is not a concern to the UPSC syllabus. Now in UPSC syllabus, 5G can be asked in your General Studies paper 2 with respect to the e-governance, in General Studies paper 3 with respect to the budgeting, because in this case government is going to earn a large amount of revenues. It is also likely to be asked as far as the role of 5G technology in economic development as well as the role of 5G technology in the scientific development in the country. The content for this discussion would include the benefit of this auction on the government side, the overall benefit, which is the crux of this article and is also going to be discussed in detail, the benefits of 5G technology on society, polity, governance, economy and technological development. Then we will also look into some of the limitations of 5G in India. After this entire discussion, you will be in a position to answer this question clearly. The question says discuss the socio-economic political benefits of 5G technologies in India. Also discuss some of the limitations of these technologies in Indian perspective. As far as 5G technology is concerned, so the scientific approach of 5G technology has already been discussed on 25th of September 2021 with more detail. The link to this video is already given in the description box. So you can check out that link and go through the entire discussion of the scientific aspect of 5G technologies, how it is being created. Today we are looking into the various benefits of 5G technologies, and this is extremely important for your upcoming mains examination. As far as benefits of these auction to the government is concerned, first of all, higher auction price means high rise in the revenue share given to the government. This will actually help the government to reduce down the deficit it is facing right now. If you are going through the important discussion, you will be aware that Indian government's fiscal deficit has crossed the historical path and even reached close to 9% previously. So given that high fiscal deficit, Government of India should focus more in bringing the revenues, and this auction could be the one such avenue. This auction will provide multiple partners in the telecom sector because Adani has also bidded in the process, and that will create the competition, and healthy competition is always good for economy and for the people as such. This will also lead to the fall in the monopolistic competition. Monopolistic competition is a kind of market where there are very few sellers and they try to attract the consumers with different strategies including the advertising, selling and others. So India as of now has more a feature of monopolistic competition because there are very less number of sellers or the telecom operators, such as we have Airtel, Bharti, we have Jio, we have Vodafone, Idea and we have MTNL or BSNL. More partners coming in the 5G technology will always be beneficial to the consumer. This auction will also help the government for capital investment across the nation. It will help the government to come out of the COVID setback, the setback with respect to the revenue shocks. Lower budget deficit would definitely lead down the interest rate, because as you know, higher budget deficit requires deficit financing. More deficit financing simply means that it is going to raise out the interest rate in the market. Now, once the government get a good amount of money from such auctions, government deficit financing will fall down, which will ultimately lead to the falling down of interest rate. Lower interest rate will definitely benefit the producer because they are one of the largest owner of industrial loans. It will also benefit the consumer and ultimately lead to the higher demand in the economy. Such money can be utilized for restarting the installed projects in railways, highways, telecom sector, even in brownfield or the greenfield projects. Brownfield is the project which is already functioning and requires extension. Greenfield is a project which is not yet conceived or likely to be a new project altogether. And lastly, it will bridge down the gap of the GST collections India is facing right now. Now coming to the important benefits of 5G technology on polity and governance. See, these are the important dimensions that could be asked with respect to this examination in the main stage. So with respect to polity and governance, we have too many examples. 5G can be used to solve the traffic issues. So better penetration of telecom technology will definitely lead in better surveillance on the traffic issue. We can use drone as a service for 5G. We can use sensor-based services, especially in health sector. The same sensor-based technology can be used by the government in the government offices, let's say for the attendance purposes. We will have prompt delivery of the government services like biometric authentication to the rural areas. Government to citizens, government to business, or even government to government services could be made possible. Promotion to paperless governance, top to down route. So government can start with paperless governance in parliament, followed by the same in state legislation, followed by the same even at the district and the panchayat level. Because of the 5G technology and better penetration of these technologies, such paperless governance would be possible. It will help in faster collection and the clearances of the taxes, duties, customs, e-billing or e-way billing and many others. Even the technologies such as fast tag on toll plazas will be more efficient. There will be a better surveillance and the security given the kind of security we require, especially in the urban areas where people are more prone to urban crimes. It is more like a door to the integrated lighting system in the country. It will help in saving energy, saving water, waste system management and many other. I'll just give you one example, let's say on energy. So Internet of Things, if they are installed utilizing the 5G technology in a home, it will help in saving the energy. So when a person enters into the household, right number of electric appliances will switch on, the others will not. It will also help in optimum utilization of the energy. Now coming to the 5G benefits on Indian society. The first one is that fast mobility of internet will help various aspects of sustainable development goals. For example, the education. For example, the health improvement. It will help in faster accessibility of the essential services. For instance, if a citizen in the society wants to have more services from the government side or maybe from the private sector, so they can have faster delivery of essential services without a delay. It may be ordering medicines from online, it may be ordering food from online, or maybe going for ticketing for their railway or air travel. It will help in faster diagnosis on health. It will help in the promotion of e-medicines, e-education. It will help in the promotion of wearable sensors for the diagnosis on health. Even for social security, especially with respect to the women's security. And it will also help in the de-urbanization. In the last point, you can easily understand that because of the rising number of penetrated 4G technologies. Now 4G technology is more vibrant in the urban areas. And in order to avail the IT services, people actually migrate to the urban areas, or they try to live in the proximity to the urban areas. When such 5G technologies are rolled out across the country, even in tier 2 and tier 3 cities, the people who are shifting to the large metropolitan cities for the cause of internet or the IT enabled services will not do that. It will also help in reducing down the migration to the urban areas. Now we come to the most important section, that is benefit to the economy. The first one is the tax penetration and the coverage under income tax GST will increase. E-commerce will have more expansion. Faster internet means faster delivery services. It will help in the expansion in the sectors like telecom, banking, finance, medical tourism and others. It will also help in the rural development. So we have Pura concept, which is the providing urban facilities to the rural areas or urban amenities to the rural areas. So faster accessibility of the internet will definitely provide those services which are as of now limited to the urban areas only. There will be more employment generation. So if new companies are entering into the market, there will be more manufacturing of the 5G led devices such as 5G mobile phone. So that will actually create demand for more employment. We will have multiplier impact on the GDP. So according to the one report given by the Telenor in United States, 5G rollout can bring at least 6 to 7% more to the GDP. It will help in developing some of the virtual sectors or virtual based sectors such as gaming industry, animation industry, audiovisual industry, or even the electronic or e-tourism. It will boost the industrial sector through Industry 4.0, cloud computing, virtual reality, and even the robotics. For the companies which are working in the innovation sector, industrial sector, and the ecosystem which are based on the intellectual property, faster clearances through the 5G technology, virtual reality based accommodation, virtual reality based product testing will be possible. It will create backward linkages in terms of semiconductor industry, mobile development industry. More companies will enter into India and will generate employment. It will help in the research and development in multiple sectors and ultimately in the agriculture sector, which is also the core area where UPSC asks question. So from soil sampling to the drone surveillance, geolocation, weather reports, virtual capacity building of the farmers, product tracking by the farmers, automated agriculture using the automated machines which are working on the telecom network. So all these benefits can be utilized by the candidate while writing their answer on 5G benefits. Now we come to the limitations. The first important limitation of 5G is that it is an expensive technology which cannot be owned by each and every citizen, especially in a developing country like India. Then we have the limited rural accessibility of these technologies. So as of now, government is looking into large metropolitan areas for this rolling out. It requires a prerequisite of high-end mobile devices which are of course expensive in their own approach. As it is an electronic spectrum, it is a very limited in availability, which will require the companies to pay more for the selected spectrum. And when they pay more, they are going to extract the more payment from the consumers. As of now, there are only limited number of companies which are holding the 5G services. They are 4 in numbers. Lesser the number of companies are, there is more potential of price exploitation of the consumers. Health effects of 5G waves, which are high frequency waves, has not been completely denied by now. And lastly, India is a country which is yet not ready for the complete rollout of 5G waves because of the limited infrastructure on telecom sector. Now, given this entire discussion, let us come back to this question that we discussed. And we believe that after the entire discussion, you will be in a position to answer this question in about 250 words. With this discussion placed, let us now move to the next article for the day. This article of the Hindu newspaper appeared in text and context part and talks about the rising issue of the power tariff and their revision across the states. The context says that Tamil Nadu Generation and Distribution Corporation has filed a general retail power tariff revision with the Electricity Regulation Commission of the state to hike the power by 10 to 35% on various sectors. Now, time and again, it has been seen that distribution companies, also known by the term DISCOMs, have been pleading or have been seen requesting the state government or various electricity commission to revise the rates time and again. The reason being that the companies which are in the distribution sector requires heavy funding to keep their process functioning. And when they are requiring the such kind of heavy funding, they are not being actually met by the similar kind of funding from the government side. The difference between the two has created issues for the DISCOMs across the nation. From the syllabus perspective, this topic is important under economic development, mobilization of the resources, inclusive growth, and issues related to the subsidies in your GS paper 3. The content for today's article would include the details about the article, what is the actual status of power in the country with respect to DISCOMs, reasons for poor performance of DISCOMs in India, the distribution sector related reforms, and what are the strategies that we require to improve the distribution sector in the country. Now, about the article. As per the Niti Aayog's report, which was published last year in August, most of India's DISCOMs, that is distribution companies, are in losses. They are in red. And total losses were amounting to 90,000 crore rupees in the previous financial year, which is a very high number. Centre in 2020 came up with a plan to bring out the infusion scheme for the liquidity through Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan and provided for the same. Despite this central scheme, the DISCOM companies at the state level could not make the better out of their previous performance. The reason being simple. There are many states which are providing electricity for free of charges. And when they provide electricity for free of charges, they should pay the money to the DISCOMs which they deny. If they don't pay the money to the DISCOM companies are actually focusing on reducing their efficiency as well as the regular power supply. If they pay the companies on time, they are reluctant to raise the tariffs given the inflationary pressure. So we have many examples like Andhra Pradesh raised the tariff after 2 decades. So it was 20 years which took Andhra Pradesh to revise their tariffs. Kerala used the same revision after 3 years. Punjab provides free electricity up to 300 units and Tamil Nadu do the same for 100 units. The same is true in even the states like Rajasthan. So these kind of popular politics has impacted the finances of India. On the other hand, we have some best practices mentioned in the article. For instance, states like Manipur, which is also mentioned as per the Niti Aayog's report. In the state of Manipur, prepaid metering has been installed, where a person will pay, let's say, 1,000 rupees and the meter or the electricity supply will remain on till they utilize the entire 1,000 rupee. The moment they reach out the 1,000 rupee limit, they can recharge their electricity bill yet again, and that's how the prepaid metering works. Along with the prepaid metering, they have also improved the power supply to the people. Both these functions have improved the billing ability of the people, collection efficiency, and reduced the commercial losses to the DISCOM companies. Madhya Pradesh, on the other hand, provide 5% incentive to the people who are using the energy saving devices in their households or even at the industrial level. So now let us go beyond the article. Why do DISCOMs in India faces the problem of financial losses? Well, it starts from the political populism. Politicians, in order to gain the vote bank of the people, make promises, and these promises are with respect to the lower prices or even the free electricity. This popular politics reduces the tariffs to the household. But how these lower tariffs are subsidized? It is like this. If it is minus 10 rupee for a household, it is plus 10 rupee for the industrial sector. And the same is true with the agriculture and the industrial sector. So industries have to bear the high cost, household do not. This is known as cross subsidization. The 10 rupee surplus over here is going to the household. But yet the issue is not resolved. When industries are charged at a higher rate, it affects the manufacturing sector. They are making losses. And apart from that, even profits of the DISCOMs are also very low. The lower profits actually lead to the poor maintenance and higher aggregate technical and commercial losses, which is also known by the AT and C losses. So the DISCOM after this process ends up into the poor performance. Their poor performance lead to the higher non-performing asset by these companies. And of course, there is delay in the payment to the power generating companies also. Because see, this happens that let's say there is a company known by the term Tata Power. It is actually producing power. This power is given to a particular DISCOM, and this DISCOM distribute it to the particular consumer. Now, when DISCOMs are in losses, the same is true with the power producing countries or power generating companies also. They will also go into the losses, ultimately leading towards the non-performing asset. So it's more like a cycle. More non-performing asset means more popular politics. So next time the political party come into the power, they will promise to reduce down the NPA, which were created because of their poor policy formulation. So it is more like a cycle or a cause and effect relation. Now these are the following important reasons for the poor performance of DISCOM in India. The first one is higher cost of power procurement, which is as high as 80%. So power procurement accounts for almost 80% of the total expenses of the DISCOM. So if power is high or low, it simply means that the losses and the profits of the DISCOMs would be higher or the lower. DISCOMs have entered into the expensive long-term thermal power purchase agreement also. They are long-term, they cannot be denied. They are very expensive, so they have to buy such power from the power producing countries, from the power producing companies. Ultimately end up in huge losses. The second one is the lack of independence and autonomy. As per the Electricity Amendment Act 2003, which has provided for the State Electricity Regulatory Commission to ensure that there should be independence and authority in fixing the electricity tariff. But in India, there is a political interference in this regard. Political interference happens in fixing the tariffs, which lead to the lower tariffs of electricity and popular politics. The DISCOMs ultimately end up in supplying the electricity to the household and agriculture sector in more subsidized prices, leading to the higher losses to these companies. Then comes the issue of cross subsidization of tariff. The DISCOMs have increased the electricity tariff for the industries to compensate for the losses. Thus, in turn, they have forced the industries to avail the benefit under the open access policy. Under the open access policy, bulk consumer, that is the consumer which are utilizing more than 1 megawatt, can purchase the electricity directly from the open market. So, since DISCOMs are supplying electricity to the industries at higher tariff, the industries have shifted to buying electricity at a cheaper rate directly from the open market. So when they are directly buying it from the open market, ultimately DISCOMs will not find the customers for their power, hence going into the losses. Then we have the issue of higher AT&C losses. AT&C simply means aggregate, technical and commercial losses. The higher losses have reduced the ability of the DISCOM to upgrade their infrastructure and provides reliable and continuous electricity. The AT&C losses of the DISCOMs have increased to 22% on account of transmission losses, commercial losses due to power theft, which is very deep rooted in India, and the absence of efficient metering. The global average of AT&C losses is much lower in other countries. For instance, in US it is only 6%. On India, as we have discussed, it is almost 22%. Then comes the higher dependence on the state government. So DISCOMs depend on the state government for their subsidies. The moment they provide subsidies, For the losses, they will improve better. There is a delay in receiving the subsidies reimbursement from the government, which ultimately add to the liquidity stress of these companies. And lastly is the monopolization. Presently, DISCOMs enjoy monopoly in distribution of electricity, leading to the absence of competition, higher inefficiency and poor service delivery. So if there is only one company which is providing such kind of power supply, of course that company will incur their own work culture which may or may not be efficient. Then we move towards the distribution sector reform. So what government has done? First of all, government amended the Electricity Act of 2003 in order to provide regulatory bodies such as Central Electricity Regulatory Commission or even the State Electricity Regulatory Commission, which was also mentioned in the article. We also have Appellate Tribunal for dispute redressal between the DISCOM companies, the buyers, the producers and others. Government has also introduced the competition through the open access policy where a consumer can buy a high amount of electricity from the open market and not relying more on the electricity generator. There is also the delicensing of the thermal generation. Government has also introduced the renewable purchase obligation policy which requires the DISCOMs to buy the certain percentage of their electricity from the renewable energy sources, which is quite cheaper. Government has also launched the Deen Dayal Upadhyay Gram Jyoti Yojana, under which they have separated the feeder for household and agriculture, and this has actually helped them to reduce down the subsidy bill. What happened previously was that the subsidy which they were utilizing for the agriculture purposes was also going to the consumption of electricity to the households, which is now not the case. The next was the Uday scheme, in which they have proposed that state government will take over the 75% of DISCOM's debt, but in the same case they says that DISCOMs were required to reduce their AT&C losses to 15%, which is not the case as it is around 22%. Government has launched the Saubhagya scheme to provide free electricity connection to the households of BPL and poor families. They have also launched the reform-based result-linked revamped power distribution scheme to help the DISCOM for their efficiency in operation and financial stability. Government has also launched the private participation and competition in the distribution, where they have come up with franchisee model and the privatization of the DISCOM, which actually brings the private work culture in these companies. Government is also looking into the retail choice of consumer, bringing more participation of the DISCOMs so they can choose their customers at their own. And lastly, they have the privatization of the DISCOMs. Privatization of the DISCOM simply means that the private companies would come up, they will pay for the dues of the DISCOM, they will take over the DISCOMs and will look into the important distribution for power. So from this entire discussion, what we have learned about now what are the basic reasons for the distribution companies to be there in the losses, what are the socio-political and economical reasons behind this, what government has done in this regard, and after this entire discussion, you will be in a position to understand and write the answer to this question. Electricity distribution companies have become a mode of financial burden to the state finances. Identify the reasons behind such a dismal situation and also suggest possible measures in this regard. You can answer this question in about 250 words for your practice session. With this discussion placed, let us now move to the next article for the day. This article of the Hindu newspaper appeared on page 1st and talks about the concept of freebies and how they can be irrational in the elections. Supreme Court in a petition has asked the central government to find out from the Finance Commission if there is any way to curb the political parties from promising and distributing the irrational freebies during the election campaign. Chief Justice of India N.V. Ramana has called them to be a serious issue because they actually entice the voter to vote in favor of a particular party. Now, freebies in election can be asked in your General Studies paper 2 through the election process or the functioning of the government. It can also be asked as a matter of ethical issue in your General Studies paper 4. So, what is going to be the content? The content will be that what are the freebies or the populist measures, whether directive principle of state policies favor such freebies or not, what are the constitutional learnings for us in this regard, views of election commissions, views of bureaucrats, and ethical views in this regard. And after the entire discussion of pros and cons, will be in a position to understand and write the answer to this question, that promise of irrational freebies during election campaign goes against the idea of free and fair election process. Critically examine this statement. As far as freebies are concerned, so what they are? They are actually nothing but a promise of providing the free services for the citizen if they vote to a particular political party. So it's a give and take situation. The recent case was seen where Aam Aadmi Party has promised 300 units of electricity to Gujarat. The same they have done in the case of Punjab as well. Does directive principle of state policy favors the providing of freebies? The answer would be yes, but not in a literary manner. Directive principle of state policy calls for the affirmative action that should be taken by the state to fulfill the ideals of socio-economic justice. It also calls for the government to ensure the balance between the welfare policies as well as the ensuring of economic prudence. As DPSP are non-justiciable part of the constitution, anything done by the government is not taken in the legal battle. Now, as I've said, directive principle of state policy does not provide the provision of direct freebies, but the provision given in the DPSP is being used by the governments to provide the freebies in the name of socio-economic justice. Apart from that, Article 38 and Article 39 of the Indian Constitution also provides that states should secure the social order for the promotion of welfare, as well as in certain principal policies, states should provide the welfare to the people. In this regard, states should provide the welfare of the people with respect to justice, society, economic and political. They should also reduce the inequalities, eliminate inequalities, provide the opportunities to the individuals and even to the group. Government should also look into to provide adequate means of livelihood, ownership of the material resources. They should not promote the concentration of wealth, provide equal pay for equal work, as well as promote the health and the strength of the worker, protect children from any kind of abuse and many other provisions. So whenever the government or political party in power or the opposition party and try to announce any kind of freebies or a promise before the elections, they try to utilize these provisions in order to make their argument logical. But according to the Supreme Court, it is against the ethical practice of the election. Election Commission says that electoral laws does not allow the Election Commission itself to regulate any kind of freebies. If Election Commission try to control such kind of freebies, it will be an overreach of the Election Commission, which is against the law. And Election Commission has also told the Supreme Court that in the absence of law, Election Commission is helpless and it is the duty of the citizens and the voters to decide whether they want to take the freebies and vote for a particular party or not. On the other hand, the Indian bureaucrats have expressed their concern over the rising populist measures of freebies. They say that such schemes are economically unsustainable to the economy and government should take a balanced call to weigh out the political urgency of the fiscal health. Simply means that government and the political party should look into the matter and they should promote political development over the economic expansion. And they should try to balance between their political aspirations and the fiscal health of a state. As far as ethical view is concerned, so yes, freebies are politically and legally a correct measure, but they are ethically wrong. Why? Because such practices go against the honest choices made in a democratic process. So if a person is likely to vote for a party A and party B is trying to give the freebies after the election, that person might change the view because of such political populism. If we go into the debate of whether they should be allowed or not, we'll look into the positive aspects first. Such freebies actually provides and fulfill the mandate of DPSP under Article 38 and 39 that we have already discussed. They allow the state to implement the welfare policies. They help in promotion of agriculture, education, health services to the weaker section. Let's say the 300 units of electricity provided by Aam Aadmi Party in Punjab will benefit the poor farmers. They also are not against any law in the country. As far as negative impact are concerned, so they go against the financial health. So the moment government announces such kind of freebies, they have to pay it from the taxpayers' money. Then voters are enticed against their political wishes. The next negative impact is that despite knowing it is unethical, there is no practice which can be termed as illegal, because as per section 123 of the Representation of the People's Act 1951, it is not illegal. It was stated under the S. Subramaniam Balaji versus State of Tamil Nadu. And lastly, Election Commission does not have any power as they have no legal backing on Model Code of Conduct. With this discussion in place, let us now move to the next article for the day. This article appeared on page 12th of Delhi edition Hindu newspaper and talks about the recent entry of 5 more sites to the Ramsar list from India. India has added 5 more sites to Ramsar list, or the Wetlands of International Importance list, bringing the total number to 54. In South Asia, this is the largest number. As far as syllabus is concerned, so this topic is important for your General Studies paper 3, Means examination under Environment and Ecology. The same can be asked with respect to the locations in the prelim examination. According to the article, India's Ramsar wetlands are spread over 11,000 square kilometers, almost 10% of the total wetland area in the country. And they are spread across 18 states. The new sites include the 3 from Tamil Nadu, that is Karikilli Bird Sanctuary, Pallikaranai Marsh Reserve Forest, Pichavaram Mangrove, one from Madhya Pradesh, that is Sakya Sagar, and one from Mizoram, that is Pal or Palak Wetlands. As far as locations are concerned, so the Karikilli Bird Sanctuary is situated in the southwestern direction of the Chennai city. Sakya Sagar is situated in the southern part of Gwalior in Madhya Pradesh. Pala wetland or Palak wetland is a sweet water wetland situated in the southern tip of the state of Mizoram. Pallikaranai Marsh Reserve Forest is part of the Municipal Corporation of Chennai, that is, it is inside the municipal area of city Chennai. And the last one, Pichavaram Mangrove, is found on the mangrove forest which is in Tamil Nadu. Now coming to the important things that you should know with respect to the prelim examination. Now, as per the definition of wetlands from the Ramsar Convention, wetlands can be defined as an area of marsh, fen, peatland or water, whether created naturally or created artificially, whether it remains submerged permanently or does not remain submerged in water permanently, that is temporarily. That water may be static, it may be flowing. The water may be fresh, like we have Palak, or water may be brackish, that is sambar. It may be salty. It may also include the areas of marine water, the depth of which at low tide does not exceed 6 meters. So, as far as depth of a wetland is concerned, it should not be more than 6 meters and it may be of the following type mentioned in the definition. However, India differs on this definition. Indian government has excluded the river channels, paddy field or other areas where commercial activity is taking place. Now, why India has done that? The farmers who were practicing paddy cultures were facing the environmental issue from the environmentalists who were looking to declare the particular field to be a wetland for their conservation. So farmers were finding it difficult to practice on the paddy field in this regard. Then there are river channels. So inclusion of river channels may not be a good idea because there are sometimes cases where overflowing of the rivers during the monsoon season creates such river channels, but they vanish soon in the summer season. And considering these two situations, these two areas or any area where commercial activities were going on were excluded from the conservation of wetland. As per the National Wetland Inventory and Assessment, which is compiled by the Indian Space Research Organization, Indian wetlands contribute around 4.63% of the total geography of India. And out of this 4.63%, the majority are the inland or the natural wetlands. Then comes the coastal or the natural wetlands. And then the last one is the artificial wetlands. Gujarat has the largest area under the wetlands, contributing almost 1/5 of the total wetlands in the country, followed by Andhra Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh and West Bengal. So all these facts are important for your prelim examination. As far as Ramsar Convention is concerned, which is important for this list, the convention came up in 1975 and talks about the conservation and the wise use of all the wetlands through local or national actions, including the international cooperation. There are three pillars to this convention. The first one is the wise use. Wise use simply means that we are not going to leave the wetlands on the winds and the fancies of natural forces. What we are going to do, we will utilize the resources of the wetland in judicious manner, not to create any hurdle over there. Then comes that organization will create a list of wetlands of international importance, and ultimately the third pillar is that there will be international cooperation on the transboundary wetlands. So if there is a wetland which is shared by two countries, so both countries will cooperate along with the Ramsar Convention to protect that particular wetland. It is also talking about the Montreal's record, in which those wetlands of international importance which are under threat are listed. With this discussion placed, now I will leave you with this following question. So read this question carefully and try to answer in the comment box. Let us now move to the next article for the day. Now we come to news in shorts. So today we are going to discuss two important articles, but in short, because the preparation in these articles does not require the intensive method. So the first one in the news in short is that Russia has decided to leave the International Space Station after 2024 and focusing on building its own outpost or a separate space station for the space exploration. Now, from that perspective and with respect to the UPSC examination, we should have basic understanding about the International Space Station. So this International Space Station is a habitable artificial satellite where astronauts can travel, stay and can come back. This International Space Station is a very large satellite, as you can see in the image below. It is powered using the solar power. It is orbiting around the Earth in low Earth orbit at an altitude of 400 kilometers. The first section or the first part of the International Space Station was launched in 1998. It takes 15.5 or 15 and a half rounds across the globe every day. The purpose of creating such a satellite was to create experiments at microgravity. Because at the height of 400 kilometers, as you can imagine, the gravitational force is almost minimum. And also to create a research laboratory in the space environment where different experiments can take place. And they also test different equipments for their future space journeys. The members of International Space Stations are US, Russia, Japan, Canada and other 11 members from European Union. Except Russia, all the other members have a plan to extend the functioning of International Space Station till 2030. Now, if you are reading about the space station at international front, we should also know that China is also going through its own space station known by the name Tiangong Station. It is said to be operational for at least next 10 years. It will also be stationed at a low Earth orbit at an altitude between 340 to 450 kilometers. Now coming to India. India is planning, especially the Indian Space Research Organization has a plan to launch India's own space station by 2030. That is 8 years down the line. It will be a smaller one because India is not collaborating with that of the other countries in this regard. So the International Space Station has over 15 members, which are also the developed nation having high GDP. So they can contribute such a large project, but India on the other hand will be going for the experimental purpose in which India will create its own space station weighing around 20 tons, which will also carry out the same microgravity experiments and not for the space tourism. It will also accommodate, as we know, that an international space station is known for habitable situation. So India's space station will also have the habitable situation where astronauts can stay for up to 20 days in a succession. For this, Indian Space Research Organization is creating a separate experiment for the SpaceX. SpaceX is a technology that is essential and the basic technology for the stay of a particular satellite and to and fro motion for that particular satellite from the Earth. With this, now we will move to the next article in News in Shorts. So the next article is with respect to the International Monetary Fund cutting down the global growth outlook, which is because of the recession risk. This was published on page number 14. Now, according to this article, International Monetary Fund is likely to cut down the outlook of international growth or the global economy from 3.6 to 3.2, that is a 0.4 fall in the international outlook or the potential economic growth or the future economic growth across the globe. The reason which they cited was that there is a surge in the global inflation due to the Ukraine-Russian war and supply shocks. The second reason which was cited by IMF was a slowdown going on in the US economy and the Chinese economy. So US economy has now registered one of its historical interest rate heights as well as one of the historical inflation rate heights in the recent year. And the last one was the high interest rate which are being charged across the world, including Reserve Bank of India, for controlling the inflationary pressure. All these three reasons have done something which will create the fall in international demand. And this fall in international demand will ultimately lead to lower GDP growth. And that is the reason why International Monetary Fund has come up with such a plan. Now, as far as India is concerned, even for India, the International Monetary Fund has said that about 0.8% of the GDP will be falling with respect to India, reaching at 7.4%, which is reflected through the poor external balances and very tight monetary policy. Both these things have also led to the same cause, that is falling demand in India, because government as of now along with RBI is looking to control the inflationary pressure. And all these reasons have yet again caused the same outcome, that is lower GDP. Now, from the perspective of UPSC, we should have some basic understanding of what International Monetary Fund is. This fund was created as an international institution in United Nations conference conducted in Bretton Woods, which is situated in Hampshire, United States in 1944. The same meeting in which World Bank was also conceived. Currently, it has around 190 members, and to be a member of World Bank, a country should be a member of IMF. That is, they should have basic monetary provision in order to have lending from the World Bank. The functions of IMF are as follows. They try to bring the monetary cooperation between the countries. They encourage the expansion of trade as well as the economic growth. They secure the financial stability, provide policy advice as well as financing for the developing countries. And they provide financial assistance during the crisis which happened in 1991 in India. And the same is going to be there in Sri Lanka very recently. With this discussion place, now we will move towards the last article, that is for the reference. This article was actually published on page number 8 and talks about an important aspect of jobless growth. The author has highlighted that why India's economic growth is not bringing the substantial growth in the employment. And why India, despite higher growth rate, and as of now, government is praising itself for bringing the highest possible growth rate across a country, across the world. And India is one of the highest economic growth country. Despite that, India is facing almost 8% to unemployment. These two striking situations clearly proves that there is a situation of jobless growth in the country. Now, We have already conducted the similar discussion on June 21st, that is about a month ago, in which we talked about the background of jobless growth, various aspects, issues, challenges, as well as way forward, along with a quotient discussion. So if you want to learn more on that, a link to this video is given in the description box. With this, let us now move to the last part of today's discussion, that is question of the day. The answer to yesterday's question of the day was option C, that is Article 14 deals with the global stock take under Paris Climate Deal. The question for today is, consider the following statement: International Space Station is based in the medium Earth orbit. Second statement, it is the partnership project between 4 nations and the European Union. And India is an observer state at International Space Station. Identify the correct answer and do comment in the comment box. That's all for today's Daily News Simplified. Thank you.